influencers, podcasters, news creators are all now allowed and invited to apply for a spot in the White House press briefing room under the Donald Trump administration 2.0. And I think that this is really cool, for one thing. But I also see huge potential for failure and misinformation and problem. The concept, like conceptually, allowing independent journalists and journalism creators into the White House press briefing room is huge. That's a huge deal for the evolution of journalism and the awareness that this administration has about the fact that that is the direction news is heading is huge. It's a big win for the journalism industry on the whole. However, on the other flip side of that, this is also the administration that coined fake news and has mobilized the term fake news not factually, has used it as a propaganda term to alienate real journalism that points out facts that they don't want represented. So, just as a reminder, fake news as a concept was built by Trump in 2016 when he didn't like that media outlets were covering the real shit he did every day. And so given that this administration has invited people to apply for a spot in the White House press briefing room, that gives me a little bit of pause, because if they are cherry picking which creators and podcasters and, individual independent journalists, whatever, if they're being cherry picked for who gets to be in that room, that is a cause for concern, because that does not guarantee equal representation of voice, equal representation of bias, equal representation of perspective, which is a critical part of the media ecosystem. So on the one hand, awesome choice, like very glad to see that that's happening, but also very high likelihood that this cool improvement will be taken in a direction that actually is not for the good of the people and not for the good of the journalism industry, but instead just creates more of this propaganda machine. So, if Joe Rogan is allowed a press pass, that could be really cool, but a lot of the creators and creator journalists don't follow a code of ethics that traditional journalists follow. There is no commitment to truth or fact or efficacy that is a pretty critical and important part of being a journalist. And creator journalism ethics are something that are being discussed in the industry and something that a lot of people still need to iron out and figure out exactly what that looks like in this social media landscape. But, I'm trying to be part of that and trying to make sure that journalists are held to just as high of a standard, even when the platform changes and even when the ecosystem and the landscape changes. But I have mixed feelings on this announcement today. I think it could be really good. I think if it were used correctly, it would be really good. But I think based on we know of the Trump administration and their goals and their aims and the way that they choose to be selective in what media they deem worthwhile, what media they support, then we know the likelihood is that this will not actually be something that moves the industry forward, but instead just create state-run media among social media. Those who have shown favor to Trump will likely be those who are let in, and those who show opposition, or not even opposition, but just accountability, will likely not be. So with that in mind, something to pay attention to. Very curious to know your thoughts.